All right, everyone, buckle up because today we are diving into something pretty mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah.
Bolt.new.
Bolt.new.
Yeah, this brand new web development tool
Yeah.
from the coding wizards over at StackBlitz, and it's causing quite a stir. They're calling it an AI-powered web development agent, which basically means you could use plain English
Oh,
to build entire web apps right in your browser.
that's pretty amazing.
We're not here to just parrot the marketing hype. We've got an in-depth review from Algo Academy. They actually built a whole project with Bolt.new, and we're going to break down what they learned. So is Bolt.new the future of coding, or is it all smoke and mirrors? Let's find out what...
You know what's really capturing people's imaginations? Is that Bolt.new isn't just about spitting out lines of code. It's built on top of StackBlitz, which is already popular for letting developers code without all the setup hassles. Bolt.new layers AI on top of that. So you get this super-powered environment where you can tell it what you want, and it tries to build it for you. Full stack development, popular frameworks, pulling in ready-made code libraries, it's pretty ambitious stuff.
Okay, so let's say I'm a small business owner, and I need a simple website like yesterday. Is Bolt.new going to let me whip that up without needing to learn how to code?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The Algo Academy review focused on building a portfolio site using a combination of tools. A framework called Astro, a library that helps build interactive elements called Vue.js, and another one called Tailwind CSS for styling. Think of it like assembling a website using pre-made Lego blocks instead of crafting each brick by hand. What's interesting is that Bolt.new was great at putting those basic blocks together quickly, but when it came to the finer details, well, that's where things got a little tricky. So good for getting a basic structure up, but maybe not for a polished, super custom site. I'm starting to see where the too good to be true alarm bells might be ringing for some folks.
Right. One thing the review highlighted was that while Bolt.new can pull in these popular coding frameworks, it doesn't mean you can just ignore the underlying technology altogether. It's like having a fancy kitchen gadget. It might make cooking easier, but you still need to understand the basic recipes and techniques.
Okay, that makes sense. So we know Bolt.new promises a lot. What did the Algo Academy review reveal about how it actually performs in the real world? Give us the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, let's start with the good, because there's definitely a lot to be excited about. The review found that Bolt.new really shines when it comes to rapid prototyping. Imagine you're brainstorming a new product idea. Instead of spending weeks building a full-blown website, you could use Bolt.new to quickly mock up a landing page in a couple of hours. This lets you test the waters, get feedback, and iterate on your design before investing a ton of time and resources. So it's kind of like a super-powered brainstorming buddy that can actually turn your rough ideas into something tangible. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. And this quick prototyping ability makes Bolt.new a fantastic tool for learning new frameworks as well. Instead of wrestling with installation and setup, you can dive right into experimenting with different technologies and see how they work in practice. It lowers the barrier to entry for folks who are just starting out or want to expand their skill set.
I can see how that would be a game changer for aspiring developers, or even for experienced coders who want to quickly get up to speed on the latest and greatest tools. So it's like having a coding sandbox right in your browser. But let's get real. No tool is perfect. What were some of the downsides the Algo Academy review uncovered? Where did Bolt.new stumble?
Right, so we've heard about the sunshine and roses, now for the thorns. What kind of limitations did the Algo Academy review run into with Bolt.new? Well, one thing they pointed out is that Bolt.new can feel a bit sluggish at times. Remember, all this AI magic is happening in the cloud, so your internet connection and the power of those remote servers play a big role. Compared to working on your own computer, there can be a noticeable lag, especially when you're dealing with complex tasks. It's like trying to stream a movie on a slow connection. It can get a little frustrating waiting for things to catch up.
So speed is a bit of a bottleneck right now. It makes sense. It's like we're still in the dial-up era of AI-powered development. The potential is there, but the infrastructure needs to catch up.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of things not quite being there yet, the review found that Bolt.new still struggles with truly custom designs. It can generate basic layouts, but if you want something that looks really polished or unique, you'll likely need to get your hands dirty with code.
So for now, it's more about function over form. If I'm a designer who's used to having pixel-perfect control, Bolt.new might feel a bit limiting.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. AI is getting better at understanding aesthetics, but it's not at the level where it can replace a human designer's eye just yet.
Okay, so speed bumps and design limitations. Anything else that tripped them up?
This is where it gets interesting. The Algo Academy folks decided to try setting up a contact form on their portfolio site, which meant using a database to store the information people submit. This is where they really hit a wall.
Oh, databases.
Yeah.
Those are notoriously tricky, even for seasoned developers.
Mm.
I'm guessing Bolt.new didn't handle it gracefully.
Not quite. It tried to use AstroDB, which is kind of like a built-in database for the Astro framework they were using, but it ran into a bunch of errors, and the error messages weren't very helpful. So figuring out what went wrong was a real headache.
So it's like getting lost in a foreign country with a phrasebook that only has half the words translated. Not ideal.
Exactly. In the end, they had to work around the problem by using a simpler, less powerful method for storing the data. It worked, but it wasn't the elegant solution they were hoping for.
So the takeaway here is that while Bolt.new is great for quickly getting things off the ground, when it comes to complex tasks or anything requiring deep customization, it's still best to have some coding knowledge under your belt.
Absolutely. It's a tool that can augment your skills, not replace them entirely. And that brings up a bigger point. Even if Bolt.new isn't perfect right now, it's still a sign of where things are headed. AI is going to play a bigger and bigger role in how we build software, whether we like it or not.
That's a bit of a mind-blowing thought. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Based on what we've learned from the Algo Academy review, what are the best uses for Bolt.new right now in its current state?
Well, we've already touched on rapid prototyping and learning new frameworks. Those are definitely sweet spots for Bolt.new. But there's another use case they highlighted that I think is really interesting. Creating simple demos and examples. Bolt.new makes it super easy to share your work with others. You can generate a unique link that lets anyone view and even interact with your code right in their browser.
So if I'm a teacher showing my students how to build a simple calculator app, I could use Bolt.new to create a live demo they can all follow along with. That's pretty neat.
Exactly. Or if you're applying for a web developer job, you could use Bolt.new to create a portfolio of interactive projects that showcase your skills. It's a great way to make your work stand out from the crowd.
Okay, so Bolt.new might not be ready to build the next Facebook, but it's got some pretty compelling use cases for folks who are just starting out, learning new things, or need to quickly demonstrate their skills.
Absolutely. And it's worth remembering that Bolt.new is just one player in a rapidly growing field. There are other AI coding tools out there, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. The review mentioned a few: GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, Cursor. It's becoming a pretty crowded landscape.
Okay, let's break down those contenders for a minute. How does Bolt.new stack up against the competition? What makes it unique?
Well, GitHub Copilot is kind of the big kid on the block right now. It's amazing at generating code suggestions as you type. Think of it like autocomplete on steroids. But Copilot is mainly focused on the coding itself. It doesn't provide a full development environment like Bolt.new does.
So Copilot is more like a superpowered assistant, while Bolt.new aims to be a more comprehensive platform. Kind of like the difference between having a personal chef versus having a fully equipped kitchen.
Exactly. Then you have ChatGPT, which is this incredibly versatile language model that can do all sorts of things, including generating code and explaining concepts. But again, it's not a full development environment. You can't actually run and test your code within ChatGPT.
So it's more like a research assistant than a builder.
Yeah.
You can get ideas and guidance from ChatGPT, but you still need to bring your own tools to the table.
Right. And then there's Cursor, which is an IDE with built-in AI features. It's a powerful tool, but it's a desktop application, which means you need to download and install it on your computer. Bolt.new, on the other hand, runs entirely in your browser, so you can access it from anywhere.
So Bolt.new prioritizes accessibility and ease of use, while Cursor might offer more power and flexibility for advanced users. It's like choosing between a point-and-shoot camera and a professional DSLR.
That's a great way to put it. Each tool has its pros and cons, and the best choice really depends on your specific needs and preferences. But focusing back on Bolt.new, let's say the folks at StackBlitz are listening to this, and they want to make Bolt.new truly revolutionary. What would they need to improve? What are the missing pieces of the puzzle?
Well, based on what we've discussed, it sounds like design capabilities are a big one. Right now, Bolt.new is more about functionality than aesthetics. If they could somehow teach the AI to understand design principles, or maybe create a way to translate visual mock-ups into code, that would be a game changer.
Imagine being able to sketch out your website or app idea on a tablet, and then having Bolt.new generate the code to bring that vision to life. That's the dream, right? But there are definitely some technical hurdles to overcome before we get there.
For sure. And while we're dreaming big, what about those pesky error messages? The Algo Academy review mentioned they were pretty cryptic.
Yeah, that's a common pain point with a lot of these AI tools. They can do amazing things, But when something goes wrong, it can be really hard to figure out why. More user-friendly error messages, maybe even some interactive troubleshooting guides, would go a long way toward making Bolt.new more approachable for beginners.
It's like the AI can write the code, but it can't explain itself very well when it gets stuck.
Yeah.
That's definitely something they need to work on. What else is on your Bolt.new wish list?
Well, performance is always going to be a factor. Cloud computing is getting faster all the time. But there's still that inherent lag compared to working on your local machine. If Bolt.new could find ways to optimize its performance, make the interface snappier, that would make a huge difference in terms of user experience.
I feel that. It's like the difference between driving a sports car and riding a bus.
Yeah.
Both will get you there, but one is definitely more fun and exhilarating.
Right. And speaking of making things more enjoyable, I think there's room for improvement in how Bolt.new handles project setup and preview. Right now, it's pretty good, but it could be even more seamless. Imagine being able to connect to all sorts of external services and databases without any hassle, or having a live preview that updates instantly as you make changes.
So less time fiddling with settings and more time actually creating. That's the sweet spot. But, as we talk about all these potential improvements, it makes me wonder, are we asking too much of these AI tools? I mean, Bolt.new is already pretty amazing for what it is.
That's a great point. We have to be careful not to get caught up in the hype cycle and expect these tools to solve all our problems overnight. AI is still in its early stages, and it's important to be realistic about its capabilities.
Right. It's like we wouldn't expect a self-driving car to navigate perfectly in every situation right out of the gate. There's going to be a learning curve, and we need to be patient and understanding as these technologies evolve.
Absolutely. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't push the boundaries and explore the possibilities. Bolt.new is a glimpse into the future of coding, and it's exciting to think about where it might go from here.
And the cool thing is it's not just about web development. We've talked about how Bolt.new could impact mobile app development, data science, even game development.
Right. Imagine a world where you could describe the game you want to create using natural language. And an AI tool like Bolt.new could generate the code, the graphics, the sound effects, everything you need to bring your vision to life. That's pretty mind-blowing, right?
Totally. It's like we're moving from a world where you need specialized skills to create software to a world where anyone with a good idea can potentially make it happen. That's both incredibly exciting and a little bit scary.
It definitely raises some interesting questions. What happens to the role of the traditional software developer in this new world? Will we need to learn new skills, adapt to new ways of working? And what about the potential for misuse? If anyone can create software with the help of AI, how do we ensure that it's used for good and not for harm?
Those are big questions.
Hmm.
And I don't think anyone has all the answers yet. But one thing is for sure, the landscape of software development is changing rapidly. And we need to be prepared for what's coming.
Well said. And I think the key is to stay curious, keep learning, and be open to new possibilities. AI is not going to replace human ingenuity, but it's going to augment it in ways we can only begin to imagine.
Couldn't have put it better myself. So to sum up our deep dive into Bolt.new, I think it's safe to say that it's a tool with immense potential, even if it's not quite perfect yet. It's a sign of things to come. And it gives us a tantalizing glimpse into the future of coding.
Agreed. It's an exciting time to be involved in software development, and tools like Bolt.new are pushing the boundaries of what's possible. We can't wait to see what the future holds.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive into Bolt.new. We hope you found this exploration informative and thought-provoking. And until next time, keep coding, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.